Alrighty, The Great Search brought to you by DigiKey and Adafruit. Thank you so much, DigiKey. This week, Lady Ada, like all weeks, takes a look around and helps you find the things that you need on DigiKey.com.
Yeah. Okay, so this week, a couple weeks ago, we released the W5500 Breakout because people wanted to like add Ethernet easily, and I got a lot of requests to like, could you please add a way to do PoE with this, or like a version that has PoE support, which is, it doesn't, the PoE pins are the 4 pins that are not connected to the WISNet. So it's actually like, there's no electrical reason, there's no firmware reason not to do it. It's just I have to like create the PoE module. And to be honest, like I could like make one board that just is like double-sided maybe, and has PoE on the top and the WISNet on the bottom, and it wouldn't be that much bigger. But I thought, and this is the chip from DigiKey, I thought it would be way nicer if I could get a PoE module from DigiKey, because I know DigiKey stocks them. And especially if I could get one that was like very compact, that like maybe, again, I'd flip the design over, I'd have the chips on the bottom and the module would be on the top, and it would be like chunky, but the Ethernet jack is chunky too. And that way you could get 3 volts or 5 volts out. And I thought those were like the two. Like usually the PoE modules come a couple different options, but just make sure that 3.3 volt, 5 volt were available, because then I could either pick and place it on or have it plug in. Some people can either stock it or get it from DigiKey, or people can get it on their own. And then suddenly you've got like PoE supported hardware, and then you don't have to have, you just plug something in. And if you have PoE, like we have PoE in this house because we finally we did it right.
Yay.
So we have like PoE pulled into every room. And then we have PoE routers, like wall sub routers on every room. If you want to add PoE sensors and stuff, it's really, really easy. So I do get it. Like it's really nice, especially if you want to have something that's like 50 feet away. You don't have to pull a power cord 50 feet, because the Ethernet you can get 50, 100 feet so easily, as long as you're not using like more than a couple watts. And most of these like IoT sensors aren't. You're good to go. Very common with cameras. Okay, so let's look for PoE. And let's just, I'm going to search for PoE and see what happens. So there's power supplies off board, and these are like standalone injectors and adapters. And these are very common, and I actually suggest them for a lot of people, because you don't have to, if you don't have PoE on your, Ethernet board, you get one of these things, and then you put the PoE in, it does the conversion, gives you power out. So it's like kind of sweet. But I do want something that's on the chip. So there's controllers. For this, I'd have to, again, DIY. These are great. They're they do a lot, but I would have to design my own. I'm actually, I might eventually do that, just because, again, if I wanted to have it be really compact. The one thing about these modules is like, they have to plug in. With this, I wouldn't have to do the plug-in part. It would just be like, ready to go. And there's a lot of options, and they're not too expensive. So, maybe a future Great Search will show like designing a PoE adapter and like have a little open source PoE module that you can then, copy and paste. But for now, let's check out DCDC converters. Because the thing is, you need like a transformer, and you need like diodes. You need a lot of stuff going on there to get that AC 48 to 60 volts, whatever, out, and then step it down, isolate it. You have to isolate and convert it. So let's look at active DC-DC converters with one output and see what we get. So what's cool is there's actually quite a few options here. And like I said, there's a few different voltages available, 5 volts, 3 volts. Just for like fun, let's just only look at 5 volts right now. The reason I'm saying 5 is because oftentimes a lot of boards have a 5 to 3 volt converter or step down. So we can, 5 volts kind of gives you support for a lot of different things. And then if you have a device that also, wants to do USB or something, you don't have to boost up to 5. Okay, so we've got these modules. Looks like one is 7 watts, and then we have 9 watts. Interesting, the 9 watts is a little less expensive, but it's also much taller. Let's see, it's actually the same design. They just swapped the, or very similar design, just swapped the inductor, because the transformer is what really sets the pricing. And then you'll notice a lot about PoE modules. There's kind of a standard stick style, And these stick styles are very common and popular. You'll see them a lot in like, there's like an Arduino shield that has Ethernet and you just solder one of these in or you plug one in. They're common, plug-in replacements. However, they're really long. And so, will it work? Yes, but you're dealing with like a long stick that you're going to have to deal with. And for our design, it's more like blocky, it's rectangularly shaped. And it's like, an inch or, maybe I could do like an inch or inch and a half by an inch, but I don't want to have something that's like 3 inches long because that will really, there's no real easy way to add that to this design. Unfortunately, I can't limit it by shape, but you can see that there's some that are plug and some that are not. So let's just look for stuff that's normally stocking. Let's, look at those. And second, let's do by price. Let's take a price limit of $250 or so. And the least expensive is like the stick style, $7 per tray. These are nice, and I would totally use this. Like they even have the full wave rectification in the corner, up top corner there. But these are kind of cool too. I like that these are rectangular. So let's take a look at these more. So one thing that's interesting is it has these like SMT, like these were SMT'd on, and it's like these kind of pads that are golden pads that are on the bottom. So let's look at these. So these are, compliant. They're pretty small. They're like, an inch by an inch by an inch, which is nice. A little SMT, again, to come in different heights depending on whether you want 7 or 9 watts. Short circuit protection. Looks like they come in a couple different options. So this is the module, and it gives you just need a capacitor on the output. Looks like maybe you do want a full wave rectifier on the input as well. And it comes in a couple different setups. It looks like this is the version that has those SMT nubbins, which is okay, but I kind of prefer, and this is like weird, this is a through hole, but the through holes come to the side. What I want is this style, because ideally what I would do is I'd even have little like skinny sockets. And if you wanted PoE, you just plug it in, like boom, now you have PoE. So you could decide you want 3 volt, 5 volt, or 12 volt if you so desire. So these are good, but I want the plug-in type. So let's keep going down the list. And this is the first one. So this is 5 volt, 7 watt. Nice and slim. I actually kind of like this one. I'll say it's a little more expensive though, because remember I sorted by price. So the cheapest is $7. And then this one is $8.75. So it's more expensive, to not get the stick version. This one is single-sided. So that's probably why it's much less expensive. Again, single-sided assembly is going to be easier and in general, like more cost-effective, better yield, less packaging issues. But it basically, jumps up $1.25 the minute you want these through-hole style. And then, these pins, for some reason, are a little bit more expensive too. But I do like this one. I like the plug-in. It's compact, but it's got little pins. So this one is the 5 volt, but they have a 12 volt, 3.3 volt. People can pick and choose which one you want. They're available in, they have 93 in stock, so it's not too bad. So I'm going to pick this one. This is Silvertel AG9905 LP, so like low profile, plug-in style. What I'll do is I'll redesign that WizNet breakout board to add little pads, little through-hole pads with sockets that you can plug this into or solder it in, and now you have a PoE version of the Ethernet module.
And that is the great. Sorry.
Where